How to bring any wish to reality? Every transformation in life begins long before the world sees it. It begins in the invisible theater of the mind, where thought turns into form and desire becomes destiny. Look around you. Everything you experience today is a reflection of what was once imagined, believed, or feared. If you want a new reality, you must first create it within. Your imagination is not mere fantasy. It is the creative cause of everything you will ever manifest. When you dare to believe in what your senses cannot yet confirm, you activate the very power that shapes the universe. The question is not whether your wish can come true. It already exists in the unseen. The real question is, will you choose to accept it as yours? The moment you decide that your desire is already fulfilled, the moment you feel its truth in the depth of your being, you set forces in motion that no resistance can stop. You are not begging life for blessings. You are claiming what is already aligned with your inner identity. Life doesn't respond to hope, it responds to certainty. Your assumption held with conviction becomes your lived experience. Reality bends to the one who refuses to bow to current conditions. So step into the feeling of the wish fulfilled now. Think from the desire, live from the end, because your inner state is the script from which your future plays out. You are the operant power. You command creation each time you choose what to imagine, what to feel, and what to persist in. You no longer wait for miracles. You become the miracle. As you claim your desire as an accomplished fact, the world will shift to mirror your inner transformation. Tonight, you are invited to walk boldly into the version of you who already has everything you want. Your wish is not something you chase. It is something you realize. And as you do, reality has no choice but to catch up. Imagination, the creative power behind all reality, everything that exists in your life right now. Every success, every struggle, every possession, every relationship began as a thought, an image, a silent inner assumption. Imagination is not daydreaming, it is the birthplace of all creation. Before a building is constructed, it exists in the architect's mind. Before the most beautiful symphony is played, it vibrates in the composer's imagination. Before you experience any achievement, you must first experience it internally. Reality is not created from what you see. What you see is created from what you have imagined and accepted as possible. The world you walk through is nothing more than the shadow of your inner world projected outward. And the astonishing truth is this: you hold the power to redesign that inner world at any moment. When you think of imagination, do not think of fiction. Think of the most powerful instrument you will ever possess. It builds the path to every dream and dismantles every limitation. What your senses cannot yet see, your imagination can already claim. What logic says is impossible, imagination knows is inevitable. If you want a new life, your first task is not to fight against circumstances. It is to create new inner experiences so vivid and emotionally rich that the external world must eventually conform. Your imagination is the seed from which destiny blossoms. And the moment you water that seed with attention, belief, and feeling, you have already begun the process of manifestation. Do you realize that imagination is the source of all innovation humanity has ever known? Every technological marvel, airplanes, skyscrapers, smartphones, was first created by someone who refused to accept the limits of the visible world. They saw something in their minds that others could not yet see, and they believed in it long enough for it to take physical form. That same power is within you right now, silently waiting for your instruction. Life does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you believe is true through the imaginal act. If you imagine fear, you create obstacles. If you imagine abundance, you create opportunities. You are the craftsman of your fate, whether you do it consciously or unconsciously. The tragedy is not that people lack potential. It is that many allow the world around them to dictate the world within them. They let circumstances shape imagination, instead of letting imagination shape circumstances. They focus on what is lacking, and the imagination magnifies that lack into their future. They dwell on fear, and fear becomes the architect of their destiny. Inner vision is constantly sculpting life, whether through empowerment or limitation. When you understand this law, everything changes. You stop blaming fate, luck, or others, and you take the throne as the author of your existence. Imagination must be directed with intention, because it is always working. Every assumption you rehearse repeatedly becomes the law of your world. Ask yourself, what am I imagining every day? Not what you occasionally think, but the persistent thoughts you return to. Those are the builders of your future. If you consistently imagine rejection, you will live experiences that confirm it. If you repeatedly imagine wealth, love, and success with certainty, your reality must reorganize to reflect those visions. There is no exception to this principle. The outer world mirrors the inner one. Your imagination becomes exponentially more powerful the moment you combine it with feeling. Emotion is the fuel that accelerates manifestation. Don't just picture your desire. Feel it breathing inside you. Feel the satisfaction of the dream fulfilled. See yourself already living in that reality. Walk through the home you desire in your mind. Feel the love of the relationship you long for. Sense the financial freedom you crave. What you feel as real becomes established as fact in your subconscious. And the subconscious creates your world with unwavering precision. When circumstances contradict your desire, that is precisely the moment to persist in imagination. The physical world is slow to catch up. It reflects old mental habits. Do not abandon your inner vision because the outer world hasn't changed yet. A seed does not sprout the moment it is planted. Growth occurs beneath the soil long before anyone sees evidence. Trust the unseen process. Remain loyal to the version of you that already has what you want. The world will soon reveal what you have claimed in silence. There is no dream too large for imagination, because imagination is not limited by the laws of the physical world. It operates from the realm of infinite possibility. It is the divine creative energy expressing itself through you. And every time you choose to imagine a higher life, you awaken that divine power. You are no longer a spectator of life. You become the director. The moment you realize your imagination holds the steering wheel, you stop living by default and start living by design. So the first step in bringing any wish into reality is to master the inner realm. Treat imagination as the sacred power it is. Choose deliberately what you feed your mind. Create pictures of the life you desire and return to them daily. Feel them with intensity, believe them with conviction, and remain unwavering no matter what appears outside, because reality is nothing more than imagination made visible. And the more boldly you dare to imagine, the more magnificently you will live. Assume the wish fulfilled, live from the end. To bring any desire into physical form, you must shift your inner state before the outer world shifts. The greatest mistake people make is that they think of their desire instead of thinking from their desire. When you think of something, you are acknowledging it as something separate from you, something in the future, something not yet yours. But when you think from the desire, you accept it as a present reality. You move into the feeling that it is done. You begin to operate as the version of yourself who already has what you want. And the moment you do this with conviction, the universe begins arranging every detail to make that inner assumption visible. Most people wait for evidence before believing. They think, once the money arrives, once the relationship comes, once the opportunity appears, then I will feel confident and fulfilled. But that is not how creation works. The outer world does not lead, it follows. Faith must come before facts. The internal assumption must precede the external manifestation. What you experience today is simply the echo of your past assumptions. If you want a new reality, you must embrace a new inner state right now, before anything changes outwardly. When you assume your desire is fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are acknowledging the deeper truth that your wish exists in the unseen realm the moment you imagine it. You are stepping into the version of yourself who is living that reality fully. This assumption becomes a psychological and energetic command. It signals to your subconscious that this is who you are now. And once the subconscious accepts a state as true, it compels the world to reflect it. Consider this deeply. Your outer life can only reveal what you have already assumed to be true in your inner life. If you assume you are someone who is always struggling, life will keep proving that assumption. If you assume you are blessed, chosen, and prosperous, life will also confirm that belief. You cannot escape your assumptions. You can only change them. To think from the end is to allow your imagination to transport you instantly to the fulfillment of the desire. Instead of saying, one day I will be wealthy, you declare internally, I am wealthy now. Instead of saying, I hope love finds me, you rest in the certainty, I am deeply loved right now. You speak and feel as the outcome, not toward it. This is the power of the assumption. Ask yourself, what would the version of me who already has this feel like? How would I think? How would I speak? How would I wake up in the morning? How would I walk into a room? Then begin living that identity internally. Even if your senses contradict it, persist. Your senses only reflect your old identity. They are not judges of truth, only reporters of what you have previously accepted. This principle requires courage, because to assume the wish fulfilled is to ignore the evidence of the present moment. It is to believe in what is not yet visible. It is to choose faith over fear, certainty over doubt, and imagination over limitation. Your current circumstances may scream the opposite of what you desire, but they are powerless against a mind disciplined to its new assumption. The world bends to the one who refuses to bow to the outdated version of themselves. The shift begins within a single moment, the moment you decide it is done. There is a profound difference between wanting and claiming. When you want something, you reinforce lack. You tell your mind, I do not have this. But when you claim it as already done, you align with the identity of the fulfilled desire. Wanting keeps you chasing. Assuming brings it to you. Persistence is the bridge between assumption and manifestation. You must stay loyal to the end result even when nothing seems to change. Just as a seed is growing beneath the soil long before it breaks through the ground, your new reality is unfolding behind the scenes. If you abandon the assumption too soon because the evidence hasn't appeared, you uproot what was already growing. Remain steadfast. Hold the state of fulfillment with unwavering devotion. Every time you return to the feeling of dawn, you reinforce the new identity. Every time you let doubt pull you back into the old state, you delay the manifestation. But do not condemn yourself for slipping. Simply return to the end again. Your assumption, consistently held, will crystallize into fact. To assume the wish fulfilled is to make the future your present. It is to take possession of the invisible as your truth. And once it is true within you, it becomes undeniable outside of you. This is not magic. It is law. The inner state constructs the outer world. Your identity creates your destiny. So close your eyes and feel the desire realized. Hear the congratulations. See your success reflected in the eyes of others. Feel the joy of the life you have claimed. Allow gratitude to surge through your heart, for the blessing you know is already yours. This inner celebration becomes the invitation for the physical world to join in. You are not becoming your desire. You are revealing it. You are aligning with what has always been your potential. The moment you assume the fulfilled state, you are no longer the person who is striving. You are the person who has arrived, and the world must respond accordingly. Live from the end, think from the end, feel from the end, act from the end. Because when the end becomes your inner reality, it becomes your outer experience, without fail. Feeling, the bridge that transforms thought into reality. Nothing manifests in your physical world until it first becomes a felt reality within you. Feeling is the invisible force that gives imagination the power to become flesh. You can think of your desire 1,000 times, but if you do not feel the emotion of having it, the desire remains only a thought, a distant possibility. It is the feeling of fulfillment that impresses the subconscious mind and commands creation to take form. Your emotions are creative energy. They are the pulse, the frequency, the undeniable signal that tells the universe, this is who I am now. This is what I claim as mine. Without the emotional acceptance of your desire, the assumption remains incomplete. Feelings are not reactions. They are manifestations in progress. The outer world responds to the inner emotional truth you continuously embody. If you feel anxious about money, life will arrange situations to match that anxiety. If you feel deeply chosen, life will reflect situations that confirm you are chosen. The subconscious mind does not interpret or judge. It simply accepts the feeling as the dominant instruction. It does not respond to the wish. It responds to the emotional belief behind the wish. Therefore, if you want to shift your world, the first and most important shift must occur within your emotional state. Ask yourself, what does the fulfilled desire feel like? Not, how will I feel when it happens, but how would I feel if it were already done? That feeling is the key that unlocks manifestation. Desire is the spark, but feeling is the fire. Feeling is what gives life to the imaginal act. It transforms a mental picture into an embodied reality. The universe does not speak in words, it speaks in vibrations. And your emotional state is your broadcast signal. You cannot attract what you do not internally match. Every night before you sleep, you have a sacred opportunity, a doorway into creation. When the conscious mind quiets, the subconscious becomes most receptive. In that beautiful moment between waking and sleep, relax into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let the joy, relief, gratitude, and pride that you would feel in that fulfilled reality flood your entire being. Let those emotions saturate your heart so deeply that the subconscious cannot help but accept them as fact. Then fall asleep in that feeling, not as someone who hopes for a new life, but as someone who is already living it. One of the greatest traps people fall into is waiting for the external world to give them permission to feel what they desire, they say. Once I get the job, then I'll feel successful. Once I find love, then I'll feel worthy. Once the money comes, then I'll feel secure. But this approach keeps them locked in a state of lack. Feeling must precede having. You must feel abundant before abundance shows up. You must feel love before love arrives. You must feel powerful before life gives you proof. That is the law. The inner state creates the outer experience, not the other way around. To feel the wish fulfilled is to embody the future right now. It is to close the gap between desire and possession by claiming the emotional experience as present. When you do, you dissolve the idea of someday and embrace now. Time becomes irrelevant because the subconscious operates only in the present tense. Whatever you feel now is interpreted as truth, And that truth becomes the blueprint for your physical reality. Do not confuse pretending with feeling. Pretending acknowledges the absence of the desire. Feeling acknowledges the presence of the desire. Pretending says, I don't believe this is real yet, but maybe one day. Feeling says, this is my truth now. One keeps the dream away. The other draws it toward you with irresistible force. If doubt appears, and it will, do not fight it. Fighting only strengthens what you resist. Instead, gently redirect your focus back to the feeling of fulfillment. Each time you return to the emotional experience of having what you want, you reinforce the new state. You are building an internal truth stronger than any doubt or circumstance. And what becomes true inside must eventually become true outside. Feeling is the alchemy that turns imagination into manifestation. It is the bridge from the unseen to the seen. It is the secret ingredient behind every success, every breakthrough, every miracle. When you feel something deeply enough, life must reflect it. That is the law. It is unchanging, unstoppable, and precise. So allow yourself to feel joy before the evidence. Feel gratitude before the arrival. Feel security before the bank balance changes. Feel love before you meet the partner. Feel success before the world recognizes it. Let your heart become the place where your miracle is already living. Speak to yourself as the fulfilled version of you. Move through the day as someone who has already arrived. Hold your head higher, breathe with confidence. Treat yourself as the person who has everything you desire. Because when you consistently embody the feeling of the fulfilled wish, reality is obligated to match you. It must deliver the life you have already accepted emotionally. Remember this truth: you do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you feel. And once you master your inner feeling state, nothing can be withheld from you. The world becomes your mirror, faithfully reflecting the emotional reality you carry within. So claim the feeling now. Live it now. Own it now. And watch as the unseen becomes seen, the imagined becomes real, and your wish, once only a silent desire, becomes an undeniable fact of your life. Persistence, staying loyal to the unseen until it becomes seen. Every great manifestation rests upon one unshakable principle: persistence. When you adopt the state of your fulfilled desire, the physical world often lags behind. It will show you remnants of your old beliefs, old assumptions, and old identity. This delay is not denial. It is simply the natural unfolding of creation. What you see in the present moment is merely the after effect of who you used to be. But many people make the fatal error of letting this temporary evidence dictate their inner conviction. They observe the old reality and conclude that their desire isn't working, that nothing is changing, that they are still stuck where they were. And by doing so, they abandon the assumption too soon and return to the very state that created the circumstances they want to escape. Persistence is refusing to accept the outer world as the final authority. It is choosing the inner truth over external illusion. It is knowing that imagination creates reality, not circumstances. When you persist in the inner state of fulfillment long enough, everything outside must align. Reality has no choice but to shape itself around the identity you continuously embody. But you must remain loyal to the unseen outcome, even when nothing appears to be happening. The physical world is always catching up. It is like a shadow. It follows your inner state, but it cannot move faster than the light of your consciousness. When you change your inner state, the shadow must eventually shift, even if it takes time for the new direction to become visible. Persistence keeps you aligned with the version of yourself who already has what you desire. It is the declaration of certainty. This is my truth, no matter what the senses show. Every desire you claim will be tested, not by an external force, but by your own old beliefs seeking survival. Doubts, fears, old identity patterns will attempt to pull you back into the familiar. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that transformation is underway. The old self does not surrender quietly. But if you remain steadfast, if you continue to return to the state of the wish fulfilled, the old state will eventually dissolve. Persistence starves the old and strengthens the new. Imagine a seed planted deep within soil. For perhaps weeks, nothing appears above the ground. If one judged the seed by visible evidence alone, one might assume it isn't growing. But beneath the surface, life is unfolding, roots are forming, structure is building, and the breakthrough is coming. Your desires function the same way. Creation is happening behind the scenes, in realms invisible to the senses. If you dig up the seed because you don't see progress, you kill what was already growing. Persistence is knowing that the invisible work is already underway and refusing to interrupt the process. Do not let temporary appearances deceive you. The physical world is a reflection of where you once were, not where you are now. It is slow to update because it must reorder countless events, align new opportunities, orchestrate people and timing. But once the unseen foundation is complete, manifestation appears suddenly, as if out of nowhere. People call it luck, coincidence, or miracle. But those who persist know the truth. The miracle began the moment they assumed and persisted in the end. When challenges arise, and they will, you have a sacred choice to surrender to doubt or remain faithful to your inner conviction. Faith is not blind hope. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality you have claimed. It is saying, I am unmoved. I know what's mine is already mine. And every time you choose trust over fear, you reinforce the new state as dominant. Persistence makes your assumption unshakable. Remain emotionally connected to the fulfilled desire. When a negative thought enters, do not wrestle with it. Simply return to the inner feeling of completion. Reassume the identity of the one who already possesses the result. What matters is not how many times you fall into old patterns, but how quickly you return to the truth of the new one. Persistence is not force. It is not desperate effort. It is calm certainty. It is relaxed conviction. It is the inner knowing that the desire is an accomplished fact. When you persist, you stop checking the how and when. You no longer look for signs. You trust that the unseen rearrangement is already happening. And because you trust, you live lightly, with confidence and gratitude, as the fulfilled version of yourself. Remember, the world cannot resist a mind that persists. It must yield, it must reflect. It must become the very thing you have claimed within. So persist. Persist when it looks impossible. Persist when it seems unchanged. Persist when fear whispers in your ear. Persist when the senses mock you. Persist when time tests you. Because the moment you refuse to give attention to the old story, it loses all power. Persistence transforms desire into destiny. Hold to your inner reality with unwavering devotion, and soon the outer world will bow to it. Not because you fought circumstances, but because you remained loyal to the truth that creation begins and ends within you. Let persistence be your strength. Let conviction be your anchor. And let your unwavering inner focus lead you to the moment where you can look upon the world and see it perfectly reflect what you once held only in imagination. You are not waiting for reality. Reality is waiting for you. To persist long enough for the unseen to become undeniable. Identity. Becoming the version of you who already has it. The most profound transformation occurs when you no longer seek the desire as something separate from you, but instead become the one who already lives it. Every wish you hold points to a version of you that already exists in consciousness, a self who has mastered the very life you are reaching for. Manifestation is not about chasing something outside. It is about elevating your identity to match the fulfilled version of yourself. When you adopt the internal state of the person who already has the love, wealth, health, respect, and freedom you desire, the world must conform to reflect that identity. The power does not lie in wanting, it lies in being. Who you believe yourself to be is the greatest determining factor of your reality. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, life will continuously validate that struggle. If you see yourself as someone chosen worthy and destined for greatness, then life will align itself with that expectation. Identity is the root, circumstances are only the branches. If you want to change your life, you must first change the self that life is responding to. Every assumption you hold about who you are becomes a command to the universe. Ask yourself, who am I in my imagination? Are you someone who hopes for the desire or someone who assumes it as already theirs? Because the latter is the one who manifests. You must wear the identity of success before success arrives. You must embody the state of having the relationship before the person shows up. You must feel financially abundant before money has any path to reach you. You must feel healthy, whole, and strong before the body reorganizes to match that wellness. You do not become the new identity after the manifestation. The identity brings forth the manifestation. To live as the fulfilled version of yourself is not to pretend, but to awaken. It is recognizing that the version of you who has everything you want is not a fantasy. It is your truth waiting to be claimed. When you adopt that identity internally, you are saying to the universe, I am already the one who has it. And the universe, which reflects not your words but your inner state, must obey. Look at your daily life. Every action, every reaction, every decision reveals the identity you have accepted. If the version of you who is wealthy thinks confidently, acts boldly, and feels secure, then do the same internally now. If the version of you who is in a loving relationship feels valued, appreciated, and attractive, then embody those feelings now. Identity is not learned, it is chosen. You must choose the version of yourself who already has the desire, and then think, feel, and behave from that identity until it becomes natural. When you shift your identity, reality rearranges itself effortlessly. Opportunities appear without strain. People respond to you differently. Circumstances align. Why? Because everything in your external experience is simply mirroring who you believe yourself to be. Life does not give you what you want. It gives you who you are. The moment you assume the identity of the fulfilled desire, you strip the old identity of its power. Doubt belongs to the old self. Fear belongs to the old self. Limitation belongs to the old self. They cannot exist in the same consciousness that has accepted a higher truth. When you step into the identity of fulfillment, you dissolve the identity of lack. Creation becomes easy when identity is aligned. There is no effort in being who you are. Flowers do not strain to bloom, they simply express their nature. When your new identity becomes your nature, manifestation becomes automatic. You no longer chase the desire expresses itself through you. However, consistency is essential. If you oscillate between the old self and the new, your results will reflect that inconsistency. You must be loyal to the new identity, even when the senses tempt you with old evidence. The outer world may take time to update, but do not let the delay fool you. Who you are internally is the real cause. The world will catch up. Every morning, wake up as the version of you who already has the desire. Every night, fall asleep with the same conviction. Your thoughts, your posture, your energy, let them reflect the fulfilled identity. Celebrate victories before they appear. Give thanks for manifestations while they are still invisible, because in truth they are already yours. Close your eyes and meet the future version of you. Confident, successful, loved, abundant, healthy, thriving. That version is not waiting for you at the finish line. That version exists now, in consciousness, urging you to merge with it. Step into that identity and claim your destiny. Say to yourself, I am that which I have desired. My world must reflect it. Once you become the identity of the fulfilled desirer, there is no delay. There is no doubt. There is only alignment. And alignment guarantees manifestation. Become the one who already has it, and watch everything you once wished for show up as your lived reality.